Hi everyone, it's Rachel here again, Tint Your Life. So yeah, I thought I would do a little video about one of my favorite topics, which is breathing. And I'm actually feeling like a great need to share this information. I'm feeling pretty sad right now because, well, one of my longest standing patients, clients, whatever you want to call massage patients, has just left, and he had received a few months ago a very sad diagnosis of ALS, which is a progressive neurodegenerative disease. Most people might know it as Lou Gehrig's disease. I think it's what Stephen Hawking had. Anyway, ALS is incurable. We don't know why people develop it. And obviously, as it's progressive, what happens is people get sicker and sicker. So some people have a longer period of living with it and some people have a shorter one. Anyway, so he's just left, and I was giving him a lesson on breathing because his breathing is becoming increasingly troubled. He's having difficulty swallowing, difficulty speaking. And, I gave the same piece of advice to him that I really do to a lot of my yoga students, especially when I'm at Shaw where I do private classes, but also here when I do massage. I try to stress the importance of rhythmic breathing. Now, a lot of people, in at some point or another, probably being told to, breathe into your belly or whatever. They know that breathing is really important, but the way that I try to describe rhythmic breathing is I liken it to the pistons in a car. And that's an image that a lot of people can kind of connect with. Now, if you have 4 pistons in a car, they have to be moving in a synchronized rhythm, because otherwise the car is, well, either not going to go or it's going to like shudder and judder all over the place. Now, what I've observed in my many years of being a therapist is that the vast majority of people have a very, very irregular breathing rate. Not only do people breathe too fast, people 15, 20 breaths per minute, even in states of deep relaxation, like whilst receiving a massage. But I observe patterns where people will breathe, say, in for 1, 2, and then out for 3. It's like, see, it's all over the place, in for 2, out for 3, in for 4, out for 4, all over the place. And it's just, people are just not conscious of the incredible impact that this has on the body. Well, why? Because the breath, if you think about it, is like a pump. It's kind of like a piston. Your diaphragm is moving up and down in the body, and it is creating pressure differences in your thorax. Now, the reason I know about this is from lymphatic drainage. In lymphatic drainage, we put a lot of emphasis on the breath, and that's because we know that deep breathing is one of, if not the main motor of lymphatic flow, right? Because the lymphatic system doesn't have a heart, so it needs something to push the lymph around the body. The muscle pump, and there are little muscles, on some lymph vessels, but they're pretty insignificant. What really moves the lymph is the pressure differences of the diaphragm pumping and pulling in there in the middle of your body, right? So there's, again, if coming back to like the piston thing, right? Like if you want to have like an effective pump, for example, if you were, say, pumping water out of a well, you wouldn't be going like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. You'd be going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, because we need that rhythmic element. So coming back to the importance of the rhythmic breath. Now, in the case of ALS, which is a neurodegenerative disorder, which is, there are a lot of them out there, right? You've got Parkinson's, you've got Alzheimer's, you've got even like brain fog, like the whole long COVID thing. Like, we don't know what's going on there, but people are feeling like really foggy and whatnot. Now, the brain is a highly specialized organ, okay? It is the prime user of glucose and oxygen in the human body. Every thought is a neurotransmitter, okay? But the interesting thing about the brain is it doesn't have lymphatic drainage, or practically none. Now, a couple of years ago, some researchers were finally able to elucidate what we call the glymphatic flow, which is the glial lymphatic system. And so that is, you know, what they had thought, and what they've been able to kind of understand is that there are these sort of spiral lymphatic vessels that come down the nerves out of the brain, and that helps to clean the brain. Okay, so why is that important? Well, the lymphatic system is the garbage system. It's the garbage collecting system of the body. And the way I just described it to the gentleman who just left is, for example, trees in autumn drop their leaves. If you don't rake them up, well, yeah, they'll disintegrate, they'll eventually go away, but in the meantime, they'll rot, they'll smell, they'll clog up your drains and whatnot. So it's more effective for you to rake them up and, you know, put them into the compost pile than it is for you to just leave them lying on the ground. Well, it's the same with the broken down neurotransmitters and all the byproducts of metabolism of the human brain. Like I said, every single thought is a neurotransmitter. And when we metabolize, we produce metabolic waste. And metabolic waste in the rest of the body is picked up by the lymphatic system. But in the brain, the lymphatic drainage is extremely limited. So we're very lucky because we have another system that can help to flush the brain. And this is called the cerebrospinal fluid. Now, the cerebrospinal fluid is very similar to the lymph. It is a clear, somewhat dense fluid that sits both in the sinuses inside of the head, because your brain isn't completely full. There are some pockets of liquid, cerebrospinal liquid, and it sits in these sinuses, but it also runs in the meninges. And now the meninges, most people know the word meningitis. Meningitis is swelling of the meninges. What are the meninges? Well, the meninges are membranes. There are 3 of them, okay? Now, one of them's only in the brain, but 2 of them go all the way down the spinal column. One of them goes all the way down to your tailbone. Now, you've got these membranes that are carrying lymph-like liquid in them that has to move somehow from the brain all the way down the spinal column and back. We talked about a pump. Are you with me? What do you think moves the cerebrospinal fluid? The breath. There was an interesting piece of research, I'll dig it out and put it in the comments, on Alzheimer's patients. And in fact, one of the things they realized is that when people are breathing deeply and they're in a deep state of relaxation, the cerebrospinal fluid flows in a different way. Instead of sort of, trickling along sort of like like a sewer or a river, when we breathe deeply, the cerebrospinal fluid begins to move in a wave-like motion. It goes whoosh, and they think, not 100% sure yet, but they think that this could be more efficient to flush the brain. And when we flush the brain, we get rid of the byproducts of metabolism. Okay, I'm not a physiologist, so that's as much as I know. I guess that if, some of these byproducts would be taken out of the brain into the cerebrospinal fluid, there probably is linkages from the spinal column to, for example, the peripheral circulation or the central circulation. I guess that's something I'll have to check out for the next time. But for the time being, what I want you to understand is that rhythmic breathing moves the lymphatic system, moves the cerebrospinal fluid. And so it gives us a much better chance of cleaning up all the byproducts of metabolism. Okay? And it's simple. All you do is you breathe in and out through your nose. And as you breathe in, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you breathe out, you count 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's in for 4, out for 4. In for 4, and out for 4. Okay? So, I'm going to give you some homework. Try doing that. Let me know in the comments how it goes for you. And if you have any questions, get in touch. Rose Tint Your Life. I'll be happy to help you, okay? Bye.